Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Sarita. So this is the What Did I Burn in February video, which I know it's a couple days into March, but time got away from me. So we're doing it now. I have a whole box here of empties. Many of these I have done dedicated reviews of that have dropped earlier this month. So if you're curious about a little bit more detail on many of them, you can always check back. By the way, I do have playlists under so if you go to the playlist tabs on the channel, I have every video collected in terms of company. So you can see all the Yankee candles, all of the Kringle candles, all of the Bath and Body Works candles, etc., etc. All the coffee reviews are in one place. So that's a really good place to refer to if you want to see something specific and remember what company it is. So let's talk. Let's start out with Yankee Candle because I just got done doing a big insanely long video on Yankee Candle, and so we won't really have to talk a whole lot about it. I had some wax melts. So I had Stargazing, which is their new-ish fragrance for their mini desert collection. And I also had Sweet Vanilla Horchata. They kind of come in these like really large pegs. I can do about 3 in my bottom up warmer, and then they kind of make this little size, and I pop them out and put other things in them. So here are the 2 Stargazing. As I said, I didn't love it. It's a floral lavender with some weird kind of medicinal overtones. Not my favorite, but a lot of people liked it. Vanilla Horchata, which I very much liked, and I probably will repurchase as a 3-wick from from Yankee Candle, but probably I'm gonna wait until it's like clearanced off, because I think it will be, because I don't think it was very popular. It was totally mismarketed and smells nothing like Sweet Vanilla Horchata. It smells like a really exotic Middle Eastern or Indian perfume with cardamom and marshmallows, and I loved it. Could have been executed a little bit better, etc. Other ones in that desert collection were Desert Blooms, which is kind of a heavy masculine rose fragrance, a la Bath and Body Works Patchouli and Rosewood. I didn't like it well enough to repurchase it, but it was fine. It was fine. It was a little cheap, and I can't say that the Strength and Throw were anything to write home about, but it was decent. Aloe and Agave was definitely the standout in the collection. If you don't count Vanilla Horchata, which was, I think for many people, a standout for all the wrong reasons. Aloe and Agave is definitely the most mainline. It is a beautiful aquatic green fragrance. Everything you would expect from a candle called Aloe and Agave, with a beautiful like coriander black pepper pop to it. It's very much in the style of Bath and Body Works kinds of fragrances. So if you are that kind of person, I think you would like this very much. It performed fantastic. It was really in the 7 to 8 range. Every single time that I burned it, burned all the way down to the wick clips. Yes, it got sooty especially toward the end of the candle, to be honest. It wasn't like sooty throughout necessarily, or even more sooty than like a Bath and Body Works candle, but it took an enormous amount of time to get through this candle. I don't, and I've said this before, I don't love the large jars. It's too much candle for me. Even if I love the fragrance, it just takes way too long to get through it. So I prefer a medium. When you have a candle that is that long to burn, you're almost certainly going to get some amount of smuttiness. So that was Aloe and Agave. I do highly recommend that one. So I believe that's all our Yankee candles. Yes, I have one Voluspa candle, which was Musa Bamboo in this beautiful shallow 12-ounce tin, and it is a 3-wick that I burned all the way down to the wick clips, and it is very lovely. Would I repurchase it again? Maybe. I have to say that I like a few of the other Voluspa fragrances a bit better. For me, it was a bit fruity. Although it's marketed in Voluspa's catalog as a masculine leaning candle because it does have some moss, some cypress. So it's got kind of a nice like earthy balsam feel to it. For me, in the list of notes they mention huckleberry vines, I think, which would make it green, but it's not the vines, it's the berries. And unlike Santiago Huckleberry, which is another fragrance in their collection, this huckleberry note sits up pretty high and is fairly bright. I like it when it's deeper and jammier and muskier. So this is a beautiful fragrance and it's fairly well balanced, but for me, I prefer a few of the other ones. But if it was the right price, sure, why not? I think it's nice. And actually, a lot of people would like this, even if you don't necessarily lean outdoorsy or masculine. So, Musa Bamboo, more popularly known as it comes in the jet black embossed glass vessels. But I recommend the tins because you get multiple wicks, and for Voluspa, you really need that. Strength and throw is usually very much of a struggle. But even on this one, which was a little bit weaker than the Noble Fir Garland from this holiday season, even on this one with the 3 wicks, I was getting it up into the 6.5 range, which is really solid for a Voluspa candle. And much better than a candle that it's very similar to, almost to the point of being a dupe, although I do believe that the Voluspa candle is the OG and this would be the dupe. It's from Homeworx and it is called Snow Day. Looks like this. I got this one obviously from Marshall's for $16.99. This one is a fairly popular candle. Oh gosh. So I can't smell any of the fragrance right now. All I'm getting is like soot and smoke. And that's not necessarily because it was super sooty, but mainly because the fragrance on this is so retreating, so weak. And the strength and throw on it was terrible. I think it was kind of in the like, oh gosh, 4 to 5 range maybe. But it was a similar fragrance to Musa Bamboo, in that it has like a berry component, a citrusy kind of component, and a spruce component, and for me at least, an ozone component. So the notes on this one are winter mint, bergamot, fir needle, and sugared musk. But that bergamot goes almost berry-like, and it is like a very fresh citrus. Like it's not a cologne. It's not a bergamot oil cologne kind of vibe. And like I said, for me, although unlisted, I think there's a strong ozone feel to this, which is beautiful given the marketing of Snow Day. It kind of feels like you're out in the elements. It's really a nice fragrance. Honestly, Harry Slatkin has so many like conceptual Snow Day-ish, outdoorsy tree candles for the holiday season that are just beautiful. They are. Not all of them are mind-blowing, but there is just, they're almost a dime a dozen for Harry Slatkin, which makes them sometimes feel like I feel a little overwhelmed by all of them. And sometimes it's hard for me to discern the differences between all of those different candles. I would prefer less of them and really make them special, every single one of them. But at the same time, I feel like that's not fair because any one of these might be special for another company. Honestly, it's just kind of an embarrassment of riches. But this one really didn't perform. So I would probably not buy this one again. Even if it performed really, really well, I don't know that it's remarkable. The one that I did like a little bit better, oh no, that was last year. That was last month. Last month I had the like Snow-Tipped Fraser, I think is what it was called, which I really liked that one. Again, it's nice. Maybe it pulls more nice than brilliant, but I would buy that one over the Snow Day one. The other Homeworx, I think this is the only other Homeworx candle that I have, is Birchwood Vanilla, which I burned earlier this month. It was a gorgeous February burn. It was perfect. Perfect time, perfect atmosphere. The notes on this one are Birchwood, Vanilla Musk, Winter Jasmine, and Cedarwood. I wasn't getting a whole lot of jasmine from it, but I was getting a lot of vanilla and marshmallow and roastedness. Oh man, and wood. Oh, this is a very syrupy fragrance. Some people said that it seemed a little like maple, like a maple syrup to them. I don't think there's enough of a true maple note in it to count for a maple candle, but it is very like syrup reminiscent. It reminds me of like a golden syrup or something like that. And I did mention in Australia and New Zealand, they have a very popular golden syrup that they use for all kinds of different things, including their like cookie of the country, basically, which are Anzac biscuits, and they very prominently use this golden syrup. So for me, it kind of went in that direction. But I think that the reference point for those who live in North America will probably be something closer to maple syrup, even if there's not a maple note in it per se. And man, this was strong. It was strong. It was consistent. It burned like a dream. I mean, an 8, and it had lingering power. You blow it out and you would still feel it in your house. So for me, it was almost a little bit too sweet, but I would purchase it again because it was just such a successful candle. And like I said, so perfect for February. It had all the cozy feels. It had a luxuriousness. It had a very like Sunday night, let's do pancakes kind of vibe. So I think it's a beautiful candle. And I said this, I just thought to myself, who wouldn't like this candle? But then I was watching Melanie, Mr. Kong's mom, and she hated it. So that gives me a little bit of pause because maybe it is more niche than I think. But for me, this seems like a very mainline candle that is super successful. And while the packaging is simple, like it's just perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So that was Homeworx. By the way, I did have 2 other Yankee candles that I forgot about, but you know about them already. They were like the old 3 wicks that are super wide here that have been discontinued because now they're going to shorter Bath & Body Works style 3 wicks. But this is one that's a long-standing one. This white spruce and grapefruit. Great for January, February. I love citrus and I love spruce. Especially if it doesn't have any Christmas spices included. So in concept, it was great. It just didn't execute. The strength in the throw was not where it should be. I mean, I think it was kind of in the 4 range for the most part. It might have been less than that. And unfortunately, I wasn't getting any beautiful nuances under it. All I really got was, you know, a fairly generic but nice grapefruit and a fairly generic but nice spruce. And at 4, it just was not enough for me. So I would probably not be inclined to repurchase this, even if I had hopes of better strength and throw. Evening Riverwalk, which is one from their fall collection 2023. I loved Evening Riverwalk. And yes, I would repurchase this one. It reminds me very much of, it has similarities to Bath & Body Works Cocoa Roasted Chestnuts on one hand, and the Halloween candle, the Moonlight Graveyard? Is it Moonlight? I can't remember if it's, I think it's Moonlight Graveyard with the stagecoach on the front that was real funky and mossy and marshmallow at the same time. So great. That candle was fantastic. It was definitely an acquired taste, but I acquired it, if you know what I mean. So this is very similar to that. It's a little bit more cologne than both of those candles. And in that sense, I do kind of prefer the Bath & Body Works candles because I think they're brighter and just more, You can smell the individual elements a little bit more because they're not like swimming in like a men's cologne kind of overlay, if that makes sense. But I do like every evening Riverwalk, and like I said, I'd be real happy to fire that back up again in the fall. Definitely a fall evening kind of candle. So it was really marketed quite well, although it has no aquatic overtones. So the Riverwalk part of it is neither here nor there. All right, let's go to Bath and Body Works. Bath and Body Works, I burned 2 candles. No, I burned 3. Yeah. 3 candles this month, 2 of which I reviewed in an in-depth way, which was Mahogany Coconut right here. Mahogany Coconut. And then the other one that I reviewed in the same breath was Coconut and Sandalwood. And the reason that I did that is because they were both coconut candles with a little bit of wood, and I thought they would make a great compare and contrast. And they did make a great compare and contrast, because this one burned like a dream, Coconut Sandalwood, and this one burned about as badly as any Bath & Body Works can possibly burn. So there's that. This one, I really was only able to get about half of it burned, maybe a little over half, before I got major puny wicks. And the sooting was crazy. The wax was starting to get discolored. And as much as I adore the fragrance, I just couldn't go on with it. I mean, I tried burning it like 3 times in a row with the puny wicks because I thought maybe it'll work through, it'll figure it out, and it just really didn't. So I think we're gonna be done with Mahogany Coconut. That being said, Mahogany, I think this might be like the 3rd iteration of Mahogany Coconut in terms of packaging. Greg White up in Calgary, you gave me some really great information, which is that, or it reminded me that initially this came out in the neutrals line, but it was a darker blue packaging. And he said that it did burn considerably better in that first initial pour. And then he also has, as a couple of you do, a couple of you have that pastel version that came in Candle Day a couple months ago at Christmas time. And that one apparently burns quite well. So I'm super happy to hear that, because what I don't want to hear is that Mahogany Coconut always performs badly. The pastel version came out for Candle Day, and there were huge stacks of them, and then they just kind of disappeared, which makes me think that they are sitting in Bath & Body Works back rooms right now, and we will see them in the semi-annual sale. And I'm really hopeful for that, especially given the information that they do burn better, because I will definitely be picking up more of those. Mahogany Coconut is creamy coconut, mahogany woods, and English lavender. The English lavender note is real slight, and it's just kind of a bridge between the coconut and the mahogany. I'm not a huge lavender person, and if you're not, I really wouldn't worry. This is a beautiful conceptual. It's a conceptual, it's a masculine leaning coconut, but the coconut has like kind of a floral and sweet and feminine kind of component to it rather than a gourmand component. And it opens up what could be a very heavy masculine leaning candle into definitely like more of a unisexual kind of realm. The throw when it was burning high was great. I mean, it was kind of in the 7.5 range. And it's stunning. It's a stunning candle. I will repurchase it because the fragrance is amazing. For me personally, I didn't like coconut and sandalwood, and I should have because on paper, this is my candle. Coconut, palm, luxurious sandalwood, warm musk, and jasmine. It's not particularly sweet, and it's dominated by sandalwood. Dominated. And because of that, the coconut is actually hard to kind of pick up. It's not a very nice sandalwood. And I think that if the coconut palm, especially if there was something green that could kind of cut some of that it's just kind of a very dirty sandalwood that's very flat. It's flat, it's not dynamic. And I would not repurchase it because I just don't like the fragrance. I don't think it's special. I don't know what else to say, but man, it burned. To forgive that smudging, that was just from me like lighting it weirdly. It burned about as well as any candle can burn. I mean, every time I lit this up, it was in the 7.5 and 8 range, and it went there. It went there in like 0 to 60 seconds. It stayed there. It was consistent. It burned high. It burned hot, but not sooty. It like melted all the way down. I mean, it did everything that you would want a candle to do, and it just wasn't my fragrance. The other one that I burned is my beloved Pink Lavender and Espresso. Oh my gosh. This gives me chills every time I smell it. This one unfortunately dudded out at about, well, a little bit lower than the Mahogany Coconut, but it may have just been because I was very stubbornly like, I'm going to continue burning this even though it's puny wicks and it's absurdly discolored. And the fragrance is frankly strong enough that it covers over the discoloration, the sooting, etc. And even if you get a little bit of a smokiness, it actually kind of fits the fragrance well with the espresso. So it's forgiving in that respect, but it did not burn well. And I have heard from other people that like these, at least the first initial iteration of it, which was last January, not this January, didn't burn particularly well. And I'm starting to notice a trend. These neutrals, I love the aesthetic, which so it kind of hurts my heart. But many of these neutrals packages do this. They do the like crazy soot, they get very hot, and then like halfway through they dead out. Like I would have to say that, I mentioned already, I think it's only about 20% of Bath & Body Works candles that perform badly like that, but like a heavy percentage of that 20% are neutrals candles. So it may be something about the glass that they use for these. I don't know. It's not great. I've got like 3 or 4 backups of that though. If you got the new iteration, 2nd gen, Pink Lavender and Espresso, for this year and burned it, did it burn any better than last year's, or are we still looking at the same nonsense? I can't recommend it highly, but again, highly enough, but like that's again because of the fragrance. Would I love to see better performance? Oh yes, I wouldn't even mind more strength and throw. Okay, so then we have 2 Kringle candles, which I also gave dedicated reviews of. One of them is Rosemary and lemon right here. Burned beautiful. I mean, like a dream. Yes, there is kind of like that soy smut all over everything, which I don't love, but it's better than soot. So, you know, super clean, all the way down to the wick clips. I kind of hate burned this one, and it still did fantastic. So hate burning means like, I don't like how you're doing it. I'm just trying to get through this candle. So I don't mind burning it for 8 or 10 hours at a time, throwing you in the bathroom, not caring what you smell like, you know, like that's kind of hate burning. And I did start hate burning this one because I just didn't like it. I don't know what else to tell you. I know it's fairly well liked amongst Kringle people, but I'm not really sure why. It's very lemon forward. I didn't get hardly any rosemary in it at all, actually none. There is something vaguely herbal in the background of the candle, but for me, it smells kind of more grassy than it does like a coniferous or dried spice. So for me, it came across more like a lemon verbena, maybe a lemongrass, but it wasn't pronounced enough, frankly, for you to even be able to distinguish that. It was really just kind of a lemon candle. It sat in one range, and it wasn't that great of a lemon. It was fine. I've smelled worse. I have, and I can't say that it went full board like kitchen cleaner, but it wasn't exactly like juicy and fresh either, if you know what I mean. It was just kind of like a mediocre lemon. And the strength and throw wasn't that great either. And it was variable, which happens in the soy. So I would say that the range for this one was kind of in the like 3 to 5 standpoint. Then sometimes you get a 3 and sometimes you get a 5. You really only could get a 5 if it was in a pretty enclosed space, which it was for much of the time. It was in my guest bathroom, and some of that time being hate burned. So that was Rosemary and Lemon. No, I would not repurchase that one. Snow-Capped Fraser right here. Snow-Capped Fraser is a Kringle version, i.e. a modern tumbler version of what was initially in the Country Candle line under the name Mountain Sunrise, which was a white candle with a beautiful like mountain panorama. Same candle. I bought it as a country candle initially because I loved the fragrance, and I did not realize that Snow-Capped Fraser was exactly the same thing. Very confusing. Kringle does this from time to time. They will repackage something and just not tell anyone. And then surprise, you find out. There's no rhyme or reason behind it. Because like, for instance, Tinsel Time came out, is another fragrance that came out in the Country Candle line. One of my favorites, actually, in the Country Candle line. And then they released it in the modern Kringle line, but they just kept calling it Tinsel Time. And the marketing was exactly the same across the board. You can just get it in either this format or the other format, which makes sense. But why they changed the name on this one, it's just, I can't even begin with that. I can't. But at any rate, Mountain Sunrise was the original one. I like the Country Candle line better, or I did, before the nonsense of like the reformulations. And it's just, I feel like the whole culture of the Country Candle line has really kind of taken a shift in the last like 12 months, and I'm not on board with it. That's a different story. I like the Country Candle line better, and I kind of like the Mountain Sunrise motif. I thought it like took me to a place, took me to a space, took me to a vibe that I'm not sure that this one does. But at any rate, it's really more about the fragrance, and the fragrance is beautiful. I don't have the notes here, but it's a outdoor candle in that it's sprucey, it's pine, and it's ozone. It's like an outdoorsy, rugged candle, but then there's a good amount of amber in it as well, which gives it a little bit of coziness, drives it a little closer to more of a like perfume, and makes the entire thing a conceptual as opposed to just like a rugged or authentic outdoor candle. I love it personally. I think it works beautifully as a fragrance, and it works beautifully for January and February. Unfortunately, the strength and throw is just so bad. I mean, I would say that for this one, it's in the like 2 to 4 range. And I don't think the Country Candle was a whole lot better, even when it was paraffin. It was very, very light. So much so that I probably would not repurchase it even in the Country Candle version if it was still available, unless I had confidence that it had been reformulated. For whatever reason, it's just a very, very weak fragrance. So that's kind of a no bueno too. Then I had two, and this is it. I have two, what I call my like bedroom candle scents, my nighttime candle scents. When I go out on my evening walk, I usually put a candle on I either do the bottom up warmer in my bathroom, or I do the top down lamp over some like little candles, yeah? And then when I come in and they're like pooled underneath the lamp and are like giving off good fragrance, then I just light them and they're already pooled, and I take a shower and et cetera, et cetera. This is my like bedroom, my nighttime ritual. So for some of the month, I was doing Mountain Lodge, which is actually a candle company I haven't talked about, but I see them a lot at Marshalls and TJ Maxx. It's a California company. I'm not really sure how that's pronounced. It looks German to me. I would say Leoben, but I suppose it could be Leoben as well. I see these. This is poured in Huntington Beach. I see these in Marshalls and TJ Maxx. To me, they don't seem that remarkable. My sister-in-law bought this for me for Christmas a couple years ago, and I'm just trying to use up some of the things I have around. It really does smell lovely. or it did smell lovely. It was like it was masculine leaning, very balsam forward, which was gorgeous. But then it also had a little bit of like frankincense going in it and some clove, and it was really fantastic smelling on cold, but I was concerned about it, and I had a reason to be concerned. I tried warming it 2 or 3 times, and even warming and melting it, I was getting hardly any strength or throw, so it only lasted a few burns, and I don't know that I'm impressed, and I hope it's not representative of Leoben, but at the same time it may very well be. I have noticed that a lot of their candles do lean more masculine and rugged, which is my vibe, but like I'm not gonna waste time with like, you know, those Marshall's TJ Maxx ones that are just a dime a dozen. They smell okay on cold, but like they're not really good candles, yeah? All right, and then I was really craving. One of the really special things about burning as many candle companies as I do, for instance, is that every candle company kind of has its own vibe, has its own niche, and sometimes they work outside of it, but like every now and then you'll just get a hankering, you know? And it's like, I really need to burn a root candle. You know, I'm craving a root candle. And that's exactly what happened with this one. I was craving either like a really deep, like creamy, sultry, like there's a certain vibe to a root candle, and also similarly to the Stonewall home candles. Both of them kind of have a similar vibe in that they have at least many of their candles have this very distinctive, deep, creamy, masculine kind of musky smell to them. Kind of like Bath & Body Works Cocoa Roasted Chestnuts. Like it's just, Stonewall Home has like cashmere and what was it? Driftwood. Oh my God. I love driftwood. And then like tobacco vanilla from Root. Like that's what I wanted. So I searched through my drawers and I was like, what root candle do I have? And I found this one, which I actually bought at Wegmans. This was in their like Comforts of Home collection, which I actually hauled. So if you want to, you can go back and look at that video. I think there's like 4 or 5 colors or fragrances in this like mini collection, Comforts of Home. And they all have this like wood wick to them. They either come in this larger vessel with the 2 wood wicks, or they come in a smaller vessel with 1 wick. This particular one was called Rest and Recharge. And it was everything. And I'm sorry that I don't have the notes for you. I should have looked that up. But it has some like spruce in it, but the dominant notes here are like creamy vanilla, musk, smoke. Oh, it's so good. Amber. I loved it. And I would say for most of the month, because I gave up on this one pretty quickly, for most of the month, I would like melt this one top down, and then when I came in from a walk, I would light it up. The wood wicks were super finicky. Like, I don't have a whole lot of experience with wood wicks, but I'm not impressed. I just feel like you spend so much time and effort getting them burned, keeping them burned. I don't think they I just don't think they do anything for the candle. I feel like they're gimmicky. For those of you who do wood wick, for instance, which is probably the most popular and recognizable wood, like candle company that uses the wood wicks, do those work well? Maybe like, because Root tends to, they only use these in like a couple of their mini collections. And I get why they were going with it, with this particular motif of comforts at home. And it worked particularly well with this fragrance because this is a very cold weather kind of fragrance. It was very rustic and it just works so well, like as a kind of aesthetic. But man, I struggled with the wicks. It wasn't a great burn. It had a tendency to tunnel. Sometimes, often actually, I wasn't getting good high flames on those double wicks, partly because they were wood, but like I think maybe even if it was like a full long bar of wood, or if there was another additional third wick, I don't know. It was obviously melting it top down like every single time corrected it as it went down and also got it started. And I had to keep it burning for a really long time. And I usually stay up very, very late. So sometimes I would be able to allow it to go for hours. And it did fine. The wax did get discolored, but it didn't seem to affect either the performance or the fragrance. So it was fine. If you know, Root uses beeswax. I can't remember if it's a beeswax blend. It might be a beeswax blend. Yeah. Man, the fragrance is intoxicating. The reason why I didn't do a review on it is because it looks like they've discontinued them. And it may be because they don't perform particularly well. I don't know. They have a few of the fragrances left in votives, and I do notice on Amazon they have some of these. So I will link them down below. I haven't tried out the other fragrances, but I'm going to, obviously. This fragrance is like everything. I love it. I love it. I mean, is it reminiscent of some other things that I've burned? Yes, but it's just so up my alley. I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, that's called Rest and Recharge. This is a 12 ounce and it's got 2 wood wicks. Okay, that's what I've got. February dawn. I guess they didn't have very many like floral or romantic candles here. Yikes. Yikes. But I feel like we're gonna have so many floral candles coming up. Okay, we're on to March. I'm excited. Are you excited? I'll link all of everything that I can down below of all of this. And then obviously if you want a more in-depth review, most of these also have dedicated candle reviews. Thanks for joining me this month. Thanks for joining me for this video. And let's see what March brings. I'll catch you in the next one.